Good day everyone, my name is Julie Bibotel and for today's video is all about my understanding of school culture. So the meaning of school culture, the term school culture generally refers to the beliefs, perception, relationship, attitude, written and unwritten rules that shape and influence every aspect of how a school foundation, but the term also encompasses more concrete issues such as the physical and emotional safety of students, the other lines of classroom and public spaces, or the degree to which a school embraces and celebrates racial, ethnic, linguistic, or cultural diversity. Classification of culture. This culture is divided into two types such as material and non-material culture. The material culture consists of products of human activity which is concrete, tangible, and observable. These objects are man-made and called as artifacts. It refers to books, chairs, tables, furniture, tools, and telephone. These material culture are external and utilitarian. Material culture is invented for human convenience that contribute to the progress of society. It changes faster. The non-material culture consists of intangible and abstract things like costumes, values, goodwill habits, belief, language, and etc. Non-material culture is something internal and they do not have physical existence. Non-material culture changes very slowly. It is created talking the psychological basis of man reflects the inward nature of man. Non-material culture has two aspects such as cognitive and normative. Cognitive aspects deals with knowledge, whereas the normative aspect is consists of norms, rules, and values. We can see it and touch it. Characteristic of culture. There are five characteristics of culture that are shared by human societies. There are the culture is learned, shared, symbolic, integrated, and dynamics. Culture is not thought to be innate or inherited. Rather, people learn culture as it is shared by others around them. These are the function of culture. We have transfer of knowledge, define situation, provide behavior pattern, molds personality. So the first is transfer of knowledge. Culture is transmissive in nature. It helps in transmission of custom, rituals, and the knowledge behind everything it bears. It is also become a possible as a function of culture when a young generation conserve cultural practices from the preceding generation. The young ones of a society see cultural practices being observed. The second is define situation. A culture plays role in defining situation. Human being faces several scenarios in a day. Culture define those scenarios and situation by giving him knowledge about it, by teaching him how to behave and act in that situation, by telling what the situation means to the society, by giving him a comparative view of situation, by bringing forth how others act during such situation. The third is provide behavior pattern. Behavior is a manner of action and reaction by human being in society. Culture in itself is learned and demonstrated behavior which sets the pattern of human conduct. For instance, it is a behavior pattern that a person who becomes father distributes sweet among his co-villagers. Similarly, it is a behavior pattern that thought by culture that the people shared happiness on a wedding and shared sorrow on a funeral in a society. So the last function of culture is molds personality. It is a manifestation can be seen in two important cases. First is a child who is brought up in a specific culture. Gradually culture molds him into a person with common behavior and practices in society. Similarly, a person who leaves his country to go and live in abroad for the sake of earning money adapts to the foreign culture. So ngayon, dadako naman tayo sa 18 major elements of culture. Elements of culture include our norms, language, rituals, holidays, food and diet, art, and architecture, and etc. The first major is norms. Every culture has its own norms. Norms comes from the same origin as the word normal. Our culture norms are the things we do that seem normal or natural within our culture. For example, eating with a fork, this is a norm in Western cultures, but go to parts of Asia and they might think you're a little weird, or even have poor dexterity because you don't know how to use chopsticks. Chopsticks are the norm in many Asian cultures. The second is language. Most cultures are brought together by a common language, the way of speaking. The next is festivals. Cultures often celebrate their uniqueness and identities through festivals. The festival often show off the clothing and outfits of a culture as well as of the food and music. The fourth is rituals and ceremonies. Cultural rituals and ceremonies are similar to festival but often have a more solemn and commemorative element. The next is holidays. Some cultures have very important holidays where everyone decides not to work for the day as a harvest celebration. The next is pastimes. All cultures have their own unique pastimes. These often revolve around sports but also could include activities like hiking and following certain television shows. The next is food. Many cultures develop their own taste for particular foods and diets. Famously, Italian culture is oriented around coffee, pasta, and pizza. The number 8 is architecture. When traveling the world, you can see different architectural influences in different countries. Here we can see how culture shapes architectural choices. The next is religious. While religion and culture are different concepts, they also overlap a lot. Culture are often built upon religions over hundreds of years. Number 10 is values. Many cultures around a certain set of values in the West. Individual liberty has been a central cultural marker since the Enlightenment. In China, dominant values tend to be more conservative and individual liberty is a secondary concern to the integrity of the national character, currently highly oriented around the ruling party. Number 11 is taboos. Cultural taboos are things that are considered shocking or shameful. Number 11 is taboos. Cultural taboos are things that are considered shocking or shameful within a culture. Example of an American taboos is not tipping the waitress. If you fail to tip the waitress, you will be very much frowned upon. The number 12 is sports. Sports help us come together as a culture. They can also help us transcend cultures to get to know other. For example, cricket is a very popular in India and a prominent cultural pastime, but it also shared by Australia, creating a link between many people who would identify as ethnic Western Christians who would otherwise be disconnected. So number 13 is a clothing and outfits. The clothes we wear might seem normal within our culture but strange or even dressed up in other culture. Number 14 is a music. Unique music, tastes, and preferences become a dominant in the some cultures. So the number 15 is hierarchy. Different cultures have their own ways of organizing society into hierarchies. A hierarchy is needed to help a culture sort out who will be the decision maker and set preferential treatment in social situations. Number 16 is symbols. Traditional symbols of cultural groups include flag of culture as well as elements like national birds of flowers. Example, for Chinese people, national symbols might include the Chinese dragon, panda bear, or Chinese lantern. So number 17 is dance. Culture also develop their own dance preferences. If you don't dance in the same way as the rest of the cultural group, you might look a bit funny on the dance floor. For example, there are also traditional dance such as the traditional dance of indigenous culture on Australia and Canada. So the last major elements of culture is art. Even the artistic preferences of cultures can differ. Artworks of France are closely associated with famous artists like Monet and Matisse, whereas Turkish art tends to be more associated with miniatures, marbling, and calligraphy. So the relationship between culture and society. Culture consists of the beliefs, behaviors, objects, and other characteristics common to the member of a particular group or society. Through culture, people and groups define themselves, conform to society shared values, and contributes to society. Those culture includes many societal aspects such as language, costumes, values, norms, mores, rules, tools, technologies, product, organization, and institutions. According to sociology, society as the people who interact in such a way as to share a common culture. The cultural bond may be ethnic or racial based on gender or due to shared belief, values, and activities. The term society can also have a geographic meaning and refer to the people who share a common culture in a particular location. Culture and society are intricately related. A culture consists of the objects of a society, whereas a society consists of people who share a common culture. So ngayon, dadako naman tayo sa school climate. Also refers to all the institutional aspects such as values and norms. The interpersonal relationship established between school members, the teaching and learning practices, and the safety inside the school. The next is types of culture. Norms within a culture are divided into two different categories, formal norms and informal norms. Formal norms, things such as laws that are integral to the workings of society. They are what people are bound to follow within that culture and can differ from culture to culture. So, informal norms, traditions within society or even a family, these are followed by aspect group of people within the society. So dadako naman tayo sa the strength and weaknesses of Filipino character as socio-cultural issue. So what is socio-cultural? A socio-cultural is combining social and cultural factors. Socio-cultural factors are costumes, lifestyle, and values that characterize a society or group. Cultural aspects include concept of beauty, education, language, law and politics, religion, social organization, technology and material culture, values and attitudes. So these are the strengths